August 2nd, 2022, a media organization obtained a copy of a document which whistleblowers subsequently authenticated to the committee that is styled the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Symbols Guide on Militia Violent Extremists. Mr. Boyle, are you generally familiar with that guide?
Yes.
The Betsy Ross flag. Was the Betsy Ross flag in the terrorism symbol guide?
It was.
And what about the Betsy Ross flag makes someone more likely to be a violent extremist?
I wish there was a reasonable explanation for that question.
There isn't. And people blew the whistle and said this stuff is crazy. Americans are being targeted. You used to go after the worst of the worst, didn't you?
Yes, I believe so.
You went after people who looked at child porn?
Yes.
People who were sexually exploiting children?
Yes.
And then you were in the parking lot of a school board meeting, taking down the information of parents.
Yes, that's what's happening, folks. Joining us now to dig deeper into the testimony put forth by these brave agents, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Matt, nice to have you back, Mr. Firebrand. Thank you so much for having the intestinal fortitude to stand up there, ask the questions, put these guys up so the American people can hear from them, fight back against Democrats who tried all week to discredit these folks who, oh, by the way, to my viewers, most of them are military combat veterans and then veteran decorated FBI agents. And Democrats have the gall to try to act like what they're saying isn't real. And Matt, it pisses me off to no end. But thank you, sir.
Well, those whistleblowers are patriots. They are American heroes.
Yes, they are.
That's why the FBI has done so much to try to make examples of them. See, the way the FBI tries to shut these people up when they have evidence of misuse of funds, misuse of authorities, violations of people's constitutional rights. They suspend their security clearance. Then they suspend their pay, but they don't fire them. So one of our whistleblowers, Marcus Allen, has been on unpaid suspension with no security clearance. And by the way, they've denied every request these guys have made to get outside employment. And so he's had no money and he's been destitute for over 400 days. Think about that. And then when over 400 days, no paycheck,
insane, Matt.
And stop your ability to get an outside job. And then when these folks took charity from friends and neighbors, when churches donated to them, when people felt bad and gave them a few dollars just to feed their children, Daniel Goldman and House Democrats tried to use that to discredit these people who have endured tremendous sacrifice in order to bring these allegations forward. And the allegations themselves are quite serious too, Dan. I mean, think about it. You've got anyone who has support for the Second Amendment online, people who say build the wall, people who say that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. If you've said these things online, there may be entities at the FBI tracking you, following you, labeling you some sort of domestic terrorist. And the greatest irony of all is there's Stephen Friend. His job was to go after people peddling child porn. And instead, he ends up investigating the parents who are objecting at times to pornographic material in curriculum and education. Give me a break. This is not how we use our tax dollars.
This is such a clown world. It's so upside down. It's so good versus evil. It's right versus wrong. This is... you guys expose so much. We don't have time to even dig into every single thing that you guys discussed this week. But I mean, it gets deep. The weaponization is a reality, folks. Like you heard Matt and the back and forth with the whistleblowers there say, they're out going away from serious cases like, I don't know, besides child predators. How about terrorists, Matt? We know they're coming through the southern border. Is the FBI looking at potential terrorists, or are we too damn busy going after Catholics and mom and dads like me who went to school board meetings, or politicians like you and others who are speaking about the regime? Are we going to have another 9/11 attack because we're too damn worried about somebody saying FJB? I mean,
you're absolutely right that not only the very authorities, the exact same people and task forces that have been weaponized against our fellow Americans were the ones set up to go after the terrorists in the caves of Central Asia. And so when you built these teams of highly skilled people who know how to get into electronic records, know how to search government databases, those people are less focused now on the foreign terrorism threat because Christopher Wray wants you to believe that every neighbor with a MAGA flag or even an American flag, if it's the Betsy Ross flag, that they're all terrorists and dangerous and that we have to use federal resources to surveil our own citizens. I have a far higher view of our fellow Americans. I actually think the American people are, for the most part, loving, kind, patriotic. It's our government that is trying to sow this discord.
Yes.
And it is really important to look at these whistleblower revelations through the lens of the Durham report that says that the way the FBI operates is with confirmation bias. First, they decide who they want to go after and what the end game is, and then they work back from that. And when evidence appears that would put them on a factual path, well, they're willing to disregard that if it doesn't go along with their quest to keep and grow their power. It is all about their power. And in that way, the FBI's broken bad on us in a lot of cases. And that's not a critique of the frontline agents out in places like Wichita, Kansas, or in Daytona Beach, Florida, or all over our country. There are a lot of great patriotic people,
Sure,
but you
of
know,
course.
they hate this stuff.
They do.
They hate this. You know what the whistleblowers told me in the depositions? They said around our station, people were always scratching their heads about why we were going after people at Catholic churches or parents at school board meetings or anyone who supported the Second Amendment online. It's Washington where the rot runs deep, and that is where we have to just cut the lifeblood off to some of these authorities, and we have to cut the funding.
Yeah. You know, when we hear that stupid phrase that the left and the media have joined together to say, threat to democracy, and they claim it's white supremacy is the biggest threat, and then they call January 6th into our minds, and it's all about MAGA people and white supremacy. I always say, whatever the left is out there claiming that the right is doing, or conservatives or MAGA people are doing, they're doing it, and they're saying it to cover their asses. And this is a case in point right here. They're the ones that are the threat to our democracy, but that's why they're saying it about us. And they're using the FBI, DOJ, IRS, ATF as their tools to do that. Who was it? One of Stalin's right-hand man that says, show me the crime and I'll bring you the criminal. I'll bring you the person. That's what they're doing. Oh, this guy's a MAGA guy? We have nothing on him. We'll make it up. I believe one of your whistleblowers said, one of the alarm bells that he sounded was when they were sending him out to serve either warrants or subpoenas, and he was looking at the evidence going, but there's nothing in the file. Why am I going out and doing this? And the hierarchy's like, shut up and go do it. Shut up and go do it.
They wanted an FBI agent to go and generate grand jury criminal process against someone based on an anonymous tip. And this is this is someone who served in our military as a Marine. This is someone who had been a cop in his home community,
right.
And now they're asking him to go and start a federal grand jury process based on an anonymous tip. He said it was crazy, absolutely crazy. And anytime you ask questions, then you're in the crosshairs. And you think the FBI has been rough to President Trump, to me, to conservatives? Look at what they've done to their own. There is a cruelty here that is so severe, it should shock the conscience of all Americans. And we're working on some things to try to make it all right to these whistleblowers who've gone through a tremendous amount of pain. But undeniably, we have to clean up this agency. And we may have to start with just a clean sheet of paper and start over, because I don't know that the rot at the top is resolvable through normal legislative measures.
I think you're right.
A total rewrite.
It may be a tear it down and rebuild it back up, Matt. You were right. They're giving me the hard rap, but I wanted to get your take just on one real quick thing because it just dropped today. Your opinion, the G7 summit, Biden and our allies now saying that the U.S. and our allies will plan to provide fighter jets, F-16s or F-15s, I forget what it said, to Ukraine and the training. But then they added in the caveat of the jets may not come directly from the U.S., but they'll be our jets that we gave to another nation, but then we'll send dudes over to train them. I don't know. Your thoughts on sending jets and us approving it?
Well, I knew that Ukraine would get F-16s because several months ago, Joe Biden said that Ukraine would not get F-16s. Just like before that, he said they wouldn't get HIMARS. Just like before that, he said they wouldn't get various forms of Stinger missiles. So the best way to know Ukraine's about to get something is that Joe Biden says they're not going to get it. I would not send $1 more to Ukraine because I support peace, not extended war. I want the killing to stop. And I believe that if President Trump were back in the Oval Office, he could resolve this very quickly. It is Joe Biden's weakness that has led to this, but continuing to plow weapons into Ukraine is not something that's going to bring about a less bloody resolution more quickly.
Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, as always, a pleasure to have you on the program.